In 1971, no one except one Baptist minister in Lynchburg, Virginia could see it. A university that would, in sports and academics, be for evangelical students what Brigham Young was for Mormons and Notre Dame was for Catholic young people. But today that school, Liberty University, is very much a reality with over 130,000 students enrolled in residential and online degree programs representing all 50 states and 70 countries. And today, Liberty University competes in 20 Division I athletic programs, including football and basketball. But tonight's conversation isn't just about the university, but about the kinds of graduates who are leaving Lynchburg and becoming what Liberty University's founder called champions for Christ. It's a story that will give you hope. Dan Hostetter is a Pennsylvania native from Johnstown. He was an academic scholar and student athlete who graduated from Johnstown Christian High School in Cambria County in 2020. And then it was off to Liberty University, where he would eventually be elected student body president, not once, but twice, for 2 consecutive years. Here's what he told the student paper, The Liberty Champion, when he won. "Our heart is to serve and love the Liberty community just as Christ has loved us." What if that was the heart and attitude every woman and man who sought public office held, to be a servant leader? Dan is currently in Washington, D.C., where he's interning with the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission before he returns to school. Dan, or should I say Mr. President, welcome to State of Independence.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, great to be with you. So, I know everybody's got to be curious, how you get to where you are. You're a student athlete in high school. You come to Liberty University. It's a big school. I'm sure it's a lot bigger than your high school. How many kids did your high school have?
I graduated with 9 students, so Liberty was quite the change for me.
Yeah. So you go from a small environment to a large environment, and yet still you're able to thrive. I mean, so much so that people recognize your talent, and you're elected student body president not once but twice. That's pretty amazing. What was it that made you want to run for student body president in the first place?
Yeah, I remember in high school, as I was figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, I remember I had a great high school government teacher, Mr. Jason Chrisman at JCS. And I remember he got me excited about government for the first time. I think I had always seen government and politics as just a kind of a way for people to grab power or to build themselves up or to seek their own interests. But remember, Mr. Chrisman really helped me understand that government is just another way to serve. It's another way to improve policies so that we can serve and love our neighbors as Christ has loved us. So I think that got me rolling. I started writing a little bit about politics and about policy in high school. And then when I came to college at Liberty, I decided to major in government just to kind of get my feet wet and figure out what I wanted to do in that area. But soon, freshman year, I realized after joining student government as just a delegate in the House of Delegates, that SGA provided me really some great avenues to be able to start practicing those skills in government, right? To be able to start serving and loving my neighbors, really those closest around me, which was the student body. So I loved serving in the House of Delegates that freshman year. And partway through sophomore year, as I was serving Speaker of the House, the opportunity arose to run for student body president. And most people haven't done that their sophomore year, but my running mate Riley and I really felt like we had a vision. And it was really an opportunity to step in just post-COVID, post even like racial divisions in 2020, to be able to step in and be able to love and serve our Liberty community. It's
a big school, and it's pretty diverse. Coming from a small school that probably was not as diverse as Liberty University is, how did you navigate that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Liberty has basically 17,000 students from around the world, from many different backgrounds and experiences and political and ideological and even theological understandings. And so there's all sorts of diversity that we've had to navigate. I think the thing that we've realized in navigating all that diversity is that you can't please everyone, but we can work to create kind of a space where people of all backgrounds, of ethnic backgrounds, theological backgrounds, are welcome to come to Liberty, to be welcomed with love, to be able to thrive, to be able to speak their mind. And I think Liberty is slowly becoming more and more of a free speech haven, a place that welcomes people of all backgrounds, and I'm encouraged by that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Of course, you've been elected twice to be the student body president. Now, I've got to imagine it's a little bit different from when I was in college. we didn't have social media. Nobody was going to take a picture of me with their iPhone because they didn't exist. Nobody was going to tweet about me or do any of that kind of stuff. This is a different world, and obviously, notoriety, especially on the college campus, has got to be hard. Everybody knows who you are because you're the student body president, and and maybe you're a bit on a pedestal, but also it's awfully hard. I mean, because everybody's watching you all the time. Tell our viewers what that's like. Knowing that you're not just another student there, but you're the student body president. Everybody's watching you. Everybody sees you, sees what you do. They're looking at you. Tell our viewers what that's like.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's an interesting mix of things because you'll go from speaking before 8,000 people in convocation, everyone knows your name, to kind of the grunt work of the job, which is most of it. I tell people who have considered running for president or serving in SGA, and I say, look, like it looks glamorous, but really like hours and hours a week, you're going to be working through paperwork. You're going to be in meetings with administration and in tough meetings with students sorting through concerns. So first I tell people it's not glamorous, right? Like the perks aren't just worth it, right? Like you have to love the job. You have to love what you're doing. You have to love service, even when it's hard. I think when it comes to just being known and navigating that, I think I've learned the hard way that integrity is crucial, right? Like I think we undervalue today character in public servants. I think we look more for charisma. We look for more for a platform, being able to speak well. But I think the first thing that we have to look for in a public servant, and I've had to check this in my own heart, is integrity, right? Like we have to be men and women of character. We're willing to lead and to make the hard choices, even when it's hard and we might face difficult public or even private consequences. And I think I've learned that really on the run this past couple of years. I'm looking forward to another year to be able to hopefully continue to walk in integrity and be able to choose the right thing even when it's hard, for the glory of God and the good of our neighbor.
So let's talk about what it's like for students there in this changing world that we live in. I was really fortunate when I went to college my sophomore year. I met the love of my life. I saw the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen in the world walking on campus. And I got up the nerve to talk to her, and after some months when she finally noticed me, we began dating and we ended up getting married, and she's been my best friend and the love of my life ever since. Tell me, in this new environment, what it's like. I mean, for dating and on a Christian campus, in a campus where Christ is held up and is the ideal for everybody to be a Christian person. What's it like from the standpoint of dating and social life? Are there fraternities on campus? Is alcohol an issue? Is bad behavior? I mean, nobody can imagine Christian people behaving badly, but we're humans. we all have our tendency toward bad behavior. So talk about some of that, dating and the like on campus. Are you dating anybody? I mean, is that?
I am. Yes, I have a wonderful girlfriend, Claire. Met her last year. She's been a joy. But I think it goes to show that Liberty is a great place to find a spouse. But even more than that, it's a great place to find just dear lifelong friends. Like I have 10 guys who I've just done life with over the past couple of years. They've been a joy to get to know. They've encouraged me in my walk with Christ. I think even more broader than dating and friendships, Liberty is just a really distinct place when it comes to social life, to campus atmosphere. Students aren't allowed to drink, which does make for a great on-campus atmosphere. It keeps students safe. There aren't fraternities, but just in SGA alone, we have over 100 student organizations that are run by students, that are centered around interests or communities, and that's a great way for students to connect. And I think just Liberty's just focus on Christ above all else has really helped us to remain distinct as a campus. I think it provides a rallying point for people to become friends around, right? Like the 10 guys that I do life with as friends, like we are very different majors. Some of my best friends are science majors, computer science majors, but we bond around Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the foundation of it all. And I think that's true when it comes to dating too, right? Like it's a great place to find a potential spouse because you know that there's so many people focused on the Lord. That's just different than most places.
Yeah. I can imagine too that there are differences in terms of Christian walk. For some kids that go to Liberty, maybe they grew up in a Christian family, and there was a great deal of pressure, of course, to go to a Christian school, but maybe their personal faith may not be that strong. And then there are kids who themselves made a strong commitment to serve Christ, and they're there because that's the commitment that they personally made. Is that at all accurate? I mean, is that at all accurate among students at the school?
100%. That's very accurate. And the wonderful thing about Liberty, again, is that we welcome all of those students, right? We welcome students who've been walking firmly in the faith since they were 2 years old. And we also welcome students who maybe grew up in a Christian family, but are having doubts or deconstructing or working through their faith. And right, like college, especially at a Christian university, is the time to have questions. Right, like I believe in capital T truth, like truth that can stand on its own. And we welcome students who come to Liberty and have those big questions and want to wrestle with them. We have an incredible Bible department. I'm a Bible minor, so I spend a lot of time in those classes wrestling through my questions myself. But there are so many wonderful resources on campus, from student led community groups to Bible classes to Wednesday night campus community chapel times, where students are really able to hear the gospel over and over, regardless of their familiarity with it or their personal beliefs. I'm so grateful that Liberty is a place where thousands and thousands of students can continually be exposed to the truth of the gospel.
Yeah. Is there any outreach? Do students get a chance to reach out to high school kids, maybe in the area, who may not necessarily be Christian, but who have needs, and realizing it's an opportunity to share the good news of the gospel with them? Is that kind of thing as well for students?
Yeah, one of my favorite things that Liberty does, and SG has partnered with Liberty Administration on this, is our service department. We have a really robust service department, which is somewhat unique, reaches out to the Lynchburg community through many events every year. One of the biggest ones is Serve Lynchburg every spring, where most of the students on campus come together and go out into the community, to churches, to community centers, to schools, to be able to serve local organizations, to spend time with the local kids at camps, to be able to share the gospel with them. I know we have an awesome evangelism club under SGA that every Saturday morning goes out to Walmart, goes door to door, preaches the gospel, shares it with people. Yeah, it's incredible. Liberty just really has a heart for the world. I think that's been my prayer for the Liberty student body, especially going into this new post-COVID season, with the new president that we just got this year, President Don DeCostin. I'm really praying that our student body moving into the future can really focus on service, on reaching out to the local community, on loving those around us in Lynchburg, and sharing the light of the gospel. So
were your first 2 years at Liberty University under the sad aura of COVID? Were you virtual for some of the time, or were you not able to interact with other students for any part of the time that you were there?
Yeah, it was an interesting experience. I graduated in 2020, so I had my senior year cut short by COVID, but that made so many of us just ready to go to college and to dive into community and start classes again. So I was grateful that Liberty allowed us to come back in some capacities. We still had to wear masks in classes, and we had some virtual weeks and things like that. But I was glad that Liberty struck a balance of trying to keep us safe, but also bringing us onto campus that year. So it definitely made for a difficult first year, but we are back to normal.
Yeah, very nice. Very, very nice. That's great. I know that you happen to be pro-life, and Jerry Falwell, of course, who's the founder of the school. I knew Jerry Falwell. Interestingly, I was a co-host. I was introduced to him by a woman who worked with one of the TV networks, Christian TV networks, and we all were sitting together when George W. Bush was being, I guess, right before the inauguration. There was a prayer service at that big church in D.C., Episcopal Church in D.C. And I sat right next to Jerry Falwell and this woman, and she asked me if I knew him. I said, no, I don't know him. And she said, we'll meet him. I said, Jerry, I want you to meet Joe Watkins, and Joe Watkins meet Jerry Falwell. So we met. And then, crazy as life is, I was a co-host at the time on CNN on Crossfire, and so your former president and I got to team up on Crossfire together from the right. And it was a delight to be with him. He was an awesome man, and it was a delight to be with him. But tell me about what you all are doing. Is this what is it about that movement that touches your heart? I mean, tell me what motivates you to be a part. Because there are a lot of people who are pro-life, but they're just quietly pro-life. They say, "Well, I'm pro-life, but I'm not gonna do anything about it. I'm just it's in my heart, but I'm not gonna share it with other people." But clearly it's been on your heart to do more than just believe that. Tell me a little bit about that.
Great question, Joe. I would say that my pro-life convictions really are just rooted in my Christian convictions, right? Like, first, it comes from my belief that everyone is made in the image of God and is therefore worthy of equal dignity and worth and value. And I think that's distinct from kind of a secular view of human rights, which would just assert that everyone deserves equal dignity, right? But it's not rooted in anything. But I would really contest, and I think Liberty would agree, that human dignity is rooted in being made in the image of God. And so, because I'm a child of God too, right, I'm motivated to love and serve the vulnerable around me. Scripture speaks so regularly to Christians, calling on us to serve and to love, and to go out of our way to care for the vulnerable and the oppressed in our midst. And I think that includes unborn children, right? I think that's the first step, but it goes beyond that, right? It goes to refugees. It goes to mothers who have just had abortions and don't know where else to turn, right? Like, our pro-life convictions should extend from womb to tomb, truly. And I think that really informs a lot of my political convictions. I'm passionate about working with refugees. I'm about providing them a safe and effective avenue to obtaining citizenship in America, if that's what they desire, right? And if that's what's safe. So I think our pro-life convictions should really cover the whole life, and that really stems from my view of Christ.
How do you, this is a question actually for anybody who's a believer in Christ, but how do you love people who don't agree with you? How do you love people who don't see it that way, or who may not be Christian and definitely don't see it that way? I mean, how do you tell me where that comes from?
Well, we aren't very good at that, are we?
Yeah, no, most of us aren't.
This a lot.
Most of us are not. Most of us are not, brother. You're absolutely honest about that. It's a challenge for us to, it's easy for us to love people who agree with us, and it's hard for us to love people who don't agree with us, and to genuinely love them. It's really very hard to do, but that's the Lord that we served was that way. I mean, he prayed for the people who were putting him to death, which I just marvel at every single time I read that passage about, him on the cross and saying, Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. I say, Lord, how could I ever be that? How could I ever have that love in my heart? I think I'm a loving person. I think the love of Christ is in me, and I hope it shows. But how could I be that loving that somebody who's actually crucifying me, who's doing me wrong, how could I bless them and not curse them? And that's the hard part for all of us. There's hope because, with young people like you who are growing in their faith and who have love in their heart for lots and lots of people, I mean, there's clearly hope. Right now, this is such a contentious issue in the country, and it's an issue that divides people. And I always think to myself, well, how could you reach people who don't agree with you, and because of your love and because of the what you're saying, they say, you know what? I think actually maybe I might change my mind. I might actually agree with what you're saying. Whatever you have, something I don't have, and I want that. I want what you don't have. I want what you have. I want that ability to love, and that I think to myself, boy, what a blessing if we could all be that way.
Yeah. I think I'm often reminded that if our goal is persuasion, we can't accomplish that through force, right? Like if we're just shouting at our ideological opponents and overruling civility in the interest of shouting our truth, right? We're never going to accomplish something. We might receive support from our political base. We might feel good about it because we feel like we're shouting the truth. But in the end, that doesn't really help to persuade anyone, right? I think I've very much learned through my time in SGA that the first step to civility, the first step to unity and to healing and reconciliation is listening, right? I mean, that's a biblical principle, right? Be quick to listen, be slow to speak. And so often our culture places a high value in our cultural economy on speaking on, like you even see social media platforms like Twitter, right? Like it really incentivizes, the platform itself incentivizes speaking and being radical and saying things that get people to oppose you. But if we're walking in the way of Christ, we're going to push against that cultural pressure, right? And I think I've had to learn that to be an effective leader, to be a good servant, to point people towards the Lord, and really just to make my community a better place, even at Liberty, like I have to listen first. I think even back to this last year, we had students of some different religious convictions who are still within Christian orthodoxy, but we're seeking a way to be able to meet and to be able to to celebrate their religious convictions on campus. And they'd receive some pushback. And I remember kind of the first thing we had to do was to go to them and say like, hey, like, how can we serve you? What can we do? So instead of speaking our mind, instead of speaking out publicly, like it was a good thing for us to first go to them and to listen. And I think that principle applies broadly, right? Like if we listen first, the Lord will use our humility and our integrity to hopefully advance His will on earth.
Excellent. When we return, I'll ask Dan to share ways that he's seen himself grow through the experience of serving his fellow students at Liberty University. Has it changed him?
Learn more about Joe Watkins and the mission of this program at joewatkins.net. And tell Joe what you thought about today's program in the comment box.
We're with Dan Hostetter, a native of Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and student body president at Liberty University. Dan, it's always one thing to seek a position like the one you hold, but another to occupy the office, as we all know. What's been the biggest difference between running and the reality of serving?
Great question. I think running's exciting, right? It's campaign season. Everyone knows that if they've seen a presidential primary before. It's exciting. You're building your policy platform, hiring your team. People have a lot of energy and are excited about your movement. And that's great. Like, I love campaigning. It's a great time to be able to meet a lot of people and to promote your vision. But the governing is much, much harder, which I don't think most people realize. But once you start governing, often the hype and the support will die down, and sometimes criticism will come. And it's harder to get support for your initiatives, and you run into roadblocks that you hadn't foreseen during kind of the hype and the joy of campaigning. And that was tough for us the first semester, hitting some of those roadblocks, whether that's just administrative obstacles to accomplishing our goals, or even student criticism or public criticism. It was important for us to learn just to keep going. Like, we promised that we would hold our campaign promises, and we have to recognize, of course, in humility, that we can't get everything done. I think that's probably the thing that governance has taught me the most, is you simply can't accomplish everything that you promised to set out to do. But as leaders of integrity, we want to pursue those things as much as we can. And I've made it my goal, especially with the second term, to make modest promises, but then to keep those promises, right? Like, I don't want to overhype things or overpromise during campaign and then not be able to meet those, right? If I'm going to serve the people that are voting for me well, I want to be able to make good promises and to keep good promises.
Somebody Googling your name would probably say to themselves, my goodness, this kid has it all together. I mean, because we all know that when you do Google searches, it doesn't tell the full story. It tells the highlights and everybody that, looks great. And what would you say to somebody are some of the challenges that you've faced personally? What's been a couple of the hardest things for you to overcome to get where you are as a human being?
Yeah, I remember, share a couple stories, but during campaign season, specifically the first one, I remember getting really worried about, like, what if I lose? Right? Like, what if I don't win this election? What's next? And of course, you go down that slippery slope and start worrying, like, well, will I have the career that I want, or will I be able to serve this community in the way that I want? And a former vice president, Joel, sat down with me and said, Daniel, like, you need to be okay with losing. The Lord will hold you in His hands, like, right? He knows your future better than you do, and it's better for you to trust your future to the Lord instead of trying to just carry it and do it in the way that you would like. So I think I had to learn to trust the Lord. That's honestly the biggest thing to my growth in the past couple of years, is just learning to give my success, my failures to Him, because we know that it's in our weakness that we find His strength, right? It's not in our strength or in our seeming success or pride or public facing success that we find our worth and our approval, but it's really in serving the Lord humbly, walking in obedience continually to Him every day, and really trusting Him and allowing Him to hold our future.
Well, Dan, you represented yourself and Liberty quite well in this program. We can't wait to see where God intends to take you on the journey He has planned for you. We'll be here in Philadelphia cheering you on. Thanks for being on the program today.
Thank you so much, Joe. Have a good one.
Thanks. We'll be right back with our great producer, Jeff Coleman, for closing thoughts.
You're watching Joe Watkins' State of Independence on Lighthouse TV. Positively different. Share your comments about today's program in the comment box at joewatkins.org.
And now let's talk to our great producer, Jeff Coleman.
Well,
you are a Liberty grad yourself.
I am.
Right?
I am. Yeah.
So
proudly.
I mean, this is. So how does it feel? I mean, is that the Liberty that you remember?
Well, the Liberty campus from when I was there to where it is today is about a $2 billion difference.
Yeah.
I mean, the investment that they've made in the physical campus. So there is not a whole, I know where I met my wife, Rebecca, and I know where the dining hall was. I mean, everything is kind of still there, but it's not there.
Yeah.
But I ran for student body president, and I won.
Outstanding.
But the election results were overturned.
Why?
Because they said I overspent. We had some rules there that said you had a $600 cap on that.
What did you spend, 601?
Well, they said that the cakes that we had for the after party, because the after party started at 6 o'clock and the polls started at 8, that we were using that money to influence the election. So, so I'll just say all that being on a Christian campus and then having a landslide election overturned was really a hard time for me. I came back the next year, I won again, and then lost in a runoff. Because they had a rule that you had to win by 15%. All those rules are gone, so I'm thinking about going back.
Yeah, you should go back.
But here's, I say that because when I'm hearing Dan speak tonight, and what he's talking about the lessons of humility, that being able to have a prize given to you and a prize taken away, and then maybe given back at some other time and other place. That is the lesson that most people in public life do not learn until very, very late in life. So you meet, as you and I have, many politicians who have an honorific in front of them, an honorable, a president, a senator.
Right.
They don't hold office anymore, but the courtesies of that office keep that title. But they're still grabbing for the limelight. They cannot let go of the power. And you say you want to learn that in your 20s and not when you're 50, 60, 70, 80 or older.
What motivated you to run for student body president?
Well, I thought that Liberty University, it was the largest evangelical university in the world, would be the right place for me to learn politics. And it was, because it was the kinds of campaigns that you run there are full contact, and you have real voting machines and the whole bit. It's quite a process.
It served you well for life.
Yeah, and served Dan very well, I thought, today.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Well, maybe college is decades in the rearview mirror for you, as it is for me, or maybe you're in the thick of it right now. But I hope you can see with young people like Dan that everything you read about this next generation isn't exactly true. There are always young leaders going in the other direction, bucking trends and defying the culture. Before you turn off the TV tonight, visit our website at joewatkins.org and post a line or two about this program. And while you're there, click on our YouTube channel and watch and share tonight's programs and some of the past episodes. From America's First Capital, Philadelphia, I'm Joe Watkins, along with Jeff Coleman and our great team at Lighthouse TV. Thanks so much for welcoming us into your home tonight. God willing, I'll see you next week. What a great young man.
Yeah, he was cool.
Yeah.
Did you run for student body?
I think I ran for class president, but I didn't win.
What did you do wrong?
Everything.
Joe Watkins' State of Independence is a production of Lighthouse TV, positively different. Made possible in part because of the support of viewers like you.